Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you've seen me, hello, my name is Jess. It's really good to have you here. If you have seen me before and you've been here and you know me, hello, it's good to see you again. So today's video is the last episode in the series I started called Think and Grow Rich. So Think and Grow Rich is this book. It's written by Napoleon Hill. And in it, he dedicates, like, each chapter is about a different principle of success. And so if you haven't seen the other ones, definitely go check them out. If you're interested in making money or being successful or whatever you want to do, like maybe this series would be something you would be interested in. So this is the last chapter. We've actually finished all the principles, and then the last chapter is called How to Outwit the 6 Ghosts of Fear. So let's talk about what this chapter is about. I'm not going to say every little thing that happened in here because there's just too much in it. But if you'd like to learn more, I definitely recommend getting the book. So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So throughout this book, Napoleon Hill's been speaking a lot about how the mind is super important when it comes to success, and basically about controlling yourself. And this is what this chapter kind of speaks about, especially at the end. It's saying, like, look into your own life and take control of your own life. Because I think, like, I know for me sometimes, and this has been something I've done a lot in the past, is it's like I'm waiting for somebody else to do something, or it's like I'm waiting for or like clinging onto excuses, or like, oh, I can't do this until this happens, or I can't do this because this happened. And it's just this stagnation. And what Napoleon Hill is saying is like, you have control over your life and your destiny. Like, don't wait around for other people to waltz in because they're not going to do it. Everyone's only focused on their own life. So if you want to be successful and you want to do something and you want to create something, you are the person who's going to have to do it. No one's going to do it for you. They can do it for themselves. They can take your idea and do their own thing. But if you want to be happy, if you want to be successful, you need to take control over that. You need to wake up and say, this is my intention. I want to be happy today, or I want to be super creative. I want to create something, and you need to decide to do that. So he does speak about this quite a lot. He does talk about there's 57 famous alibis. So obviously I'm not going to go through all 57, but these are basically just excuses people use as to why they can't be successful. So let's just choose some random ones. So some people say, if I could get a job, then I would do this, or if I now had a chance, then I would do this, or if only I was younger, if only I was older, if only I was more mature, if only I hadn't failed, if only my family supported me. These sorts of things people tell themselves all the time as to why they can't actually get up and start taking action. So it's like, oh, I've got this idea, I want to do it, but if only I had good health. Oh, I have such terrible health, so I can't do anything. So that's what he's talking about, is like these things. You need to look into your own life and like see what excuses you actually are making. And I like this one thing. He says that he said, if only I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it. Then I might have a chance to profit by my mistakes and learn something from the experience of others. So he's basically saying, like, stop talking about if only this, if only this, if only this. Like, you know, if only you had looked at yourself and said, okay, there's these weaknesses. I'm in control of my weaknesses. So you get to decide, am I going to keep letting procrastination win? Am I going to keep doing these things and blaming other people, as opposed to saying, like, okay, my life starts now, let's start changing things. And you have to make those decisions. So in this chapter, he speaks about 6 basic fears. So he says that in order for the sixth sense, and if you don't know what the sixth sense is, I made a previous video about that, but basically the sixth sense is like tapping into this universal energy and getting inspiration. So he said that in order for you to like tap into that and to, I guess, improve your psychic powers, if you want to put it that way, you have to get rid of indecision, doubt, and fear. Because if we are constantly like, oh, is this gonna work? Oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. We can't. We're like too much. There's too much thinking and not enough listening, or like vibing with the energy of the universe. And then he speaks about 6 basic fears. So he says that the 6 basic fears are poverty, so fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love of someone, fear of old age, and fear of death. So I'm not going to like go too into detail about all of this because he speaks about the different symptoms, and like obviously if I go into that, this video is going to be 400 things long. But as I said, definitely get the book if you are interested more in the different symptoms. But like let's go into each of them and kind of like briefly like say what it is. So fear of poverty is like the fear of not having money and not being rich, not being able to pay your bills, you know, like what poverty is. And he says that the problem with the fear of poverty is like once you're in that fear, it stops you from having like enthusiasm, having ideas. So, you know, he was saying that you need to like get rid of fear in order to actually tap into like inspiration and intuition. But if you're constantly worrying all the time about where's these bills gonna come from, what am I gonna do, and you're in the state of worry, then you can't like take the appropriate steps for you to be successful. And that makes sense. So like you might be more prone to procrastination because you feel so paralyzed all the time and you're so worried. So instead of going out there and doing something about it, you're just like, and you can't do anything. So he says that, so like you'll see in the videos, the first video I made is about desire. And he says that like in order to get out of this fear of poverty, choose something that you really want, choose a desire. And then go and watch that first video because I'll speak about what to do that with that desire. But it's basically about programming your mind to think about what you do want. Because if you focus on, like that's the thing, if you focus on what you do want and you imagine yourself to already be there, you're going to be more confident in your decisions and you're going to take more actions that are aligned with what you want to bring into your life. But if you're focusing on like, oh, I don't want this, and it, like obviously it is worrying and horrible and stressful, like I definitely understand that, but when you are in a state of stress, you can't take the same sort of actions that you would if you weren't stressed out. So if you had like a lot of security maybe and you were like super confident, then it might be easier example to take risks. And then we spoke about the different symptoms of the fear of poverty. So just as I said, worrying, over caution, so not taking risks, that makes sense, procrastination, doubt, and these things aren't going to help you with building the type of life that you want because you're going to be so paralyzed by fear. And then the second one is fear of criticism. So this is actually one which I feel that I have the most of. The fear of criticism is basically just like, oh, I'm scared to do this because of what other people think. Or actually an example is like with religion. So religion's being like, you can't do this, you can't do that, do this, do this. And then it's just like this, again, this feeling paralyzed because you can't do anything. And it's quite interesting because Napoleon Hill's, and again, I always find it so interesting because this was from the 1930s. And he says that it's like this is where industries and like shops and stuff start taking advantage of the fear of criticism because they use the fear of criticism in order to sell their products. So, oh, are you this, this, and this? Therefore, you should buy this product because this will fix all your problems and this will make you a better human. And then people are so scared about, you know, it's like with trends and that, like, oh, you don't have this latest car, or you wearing this, or you don't wear makeup, you don't do this, and then people are like completely controlled because, oh, I have to behave in this way so that society will accept me. Well, I can't do that. I can't be my true authentic self because, you know, that's not what society wants. But it's actually just like a money making scheme. And I think it's important to actually look into your own life and see like, geez, am I actually being completely controlled for somebody else's business? Like, are people coming into my life and saying, you're not good enough, but here's this product, like, let's squash you. You're bad, you're not good enough, your thing. Here's a wonderful present for you. Now give me your money so that you can suddenly feel better. I mean, it's just crazy that was what was happening in the 1930s and it's still happening. Like, you're not good enough, but like, buy this product. I mean, that's why I think it's important to actually look into your own life and like tell yourself, I am good enough. Like, who are you to tell me that I'm not good enough? Like, which criteria are we using here? Your own little criteria and your own values. And then just some symptoms of the fear of criticism. It's things like self-consciousness, lack of poise, lack of initiative, because it's like you can't tune into your own authentic self because the whole time you're like, oh, what are the neighbors gonna think? What's this person gonna think? What's that person gonna think? And it's just like, I used to have that quite a lot with, I mean, I do still have it to an extent, I guess. But like with people in high school, what are people in high school gonna think? And then eventually I was like, I literally haven't seen some of these people for 6 years. Why do they have so much power over me? So like, definitely look in and see who are you actually giving power? Because a lot of the time I think it's people who like really shouldn't have any say over what we're doing in our lives that get a lot of the power. And then the third one is the fear of ill health. So I think this one's actually quite interesting. It speaks about how people are super worried about, oh, I'm not going to die from this disease and that disease. So you know, the hypochondria. So that's like that fear of, you know, where people are constantly rushing to the doctors because they think they're going to get sick or they think they're going to get ill. So this is like one of the ills. And it's saying the problem is that, and I have actually seen this, is like when you, like, people can think themselves into a disease. They can think themselves into being sick. So imagine like you are just sitting there and then one of your family members comes up to you and says, oh, like, are you okay? You look so sick. Like, are you okay? Like, oh, are you sick? And then even though you're feeling fine, you could be like, oh, like, oh, am I sick? Am I like, oh, I have to go to the doctor now. Even though you were actually perfectly fine, but then you think yourself into it and now you're like, oh, I feel so sick. And like, I don't know, to be honest, like, I cannot stand this. Like, I was raised in a home where my mom was like, kind of just like, I don't know, she was like, get over it. So like, if I fell over, I mean, obviously she'd be like, oh, shame for you, but it would be like, okay, cool, like, let's move on. So it would be like, I know this sounds like so crazy, but like, it's good. I barely ever got sick because of this. It was just like, okay, like what I would notice is if I was sick, I would get better when I was actually going out and moving about and doing other things. But if I was to sit at home and be like, oh, I'm sick, then I wouldn't get any better. So I think like the mind in that respect is so important. Because it's like, if you are sick, like, focus on being healthy, focus on getting better, because then your brain's not going to be like, oh, well, or your body's not going to be like, okay, like, let's just stop working. It's going to be like, okay, cool, like, we are healthy, and it's going to try to do things in order to be healthier. And then the next one is the fear of loss of love. So this one he doesn't say that much about it, but he does say that this comes from where people cheat on each other and steal each other's partners. And he says, like, obviously it's very painful, like one of the most painful fears. And yeah, it's just like, he says that the symptoms of this are like jealousy. So people tend to be jealous when they feel like they aren't as good as the other person or they are losing out. So example, if you are with somebody and then they are giving attention to somebody else, you might be jealous of that other person. And then also like fault finding. So again, you might like take out your jealousy by like diminishing that other person and being like, you're not good enough, like, or like coming up with excuses to make yourself look better basically. But actually it's like if you were somebody who looked at that other person over there and you were actually jealous of them and you criticized them all, it's like even in your head like, oh, they're not that good, or like they don't really have an education. And it's like you may only be doing that because you're trying to make yourself look or feel better, because in reality you're actually just scared that your partner's going to cheat on you. Yeah, so he speaks about that. He doesn't really talk about like the solution to this. Yeah, to me, I think like the solution to this honestly is like looking at yourself and like giving yourself your own value and your own worth, and like having boundaries, I guess. So yeah, but I mean, I guess that's just like a whole other story. And the next one, and the second last one, is the fear of old age. So he says that the thing with like when you get old, people then it's like they're at an economic disadvantage, and then they're also at a physical disadvantage. So economic because like some people lose their jobs and because of you have to retire, and then from physical, like when you get older, well, when people get older, they tend to lose their previous mobility. But now he's busy saying, and I think this is quite similar to the illness one, but then it's like when he was saying like when people get to 40 and then they think, oh, like I'm old, and they say to themselves like, oh, like I'm so wary, I don't have the same memory that I used to have. And then again, like they use these things as excuses. I can't do this because I'm so old, I can't even walk. And then it's like the more they're saying this to themselves, the more they actually end up like because like they're telling themselves, I can't walk, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't think as well, I'm tired all the time, I'm like colder. And then their body's like, okay, cool, like we'll start showing more of these symptoms because that's apparently what you want us to have. So he says symptoms of this are like the tendency to slow down. And he says like it's funny because it's like, oh, once you get to 40 you think, oh well, my life is over. But he says between the ages of 40 and 60 are like the most useful years in terms of mentality and spirituality. And I mean, I guess maybe now, I mean, this was 1930s, now it should honestly be like not just 40 and 60 because people are dying at older ages. So like actually look at yourself and think, am I actually as wary as what I'm making out? Or am I just giving myself an excuse not to use my imagination? So he also says like people just shut off their imagination and their initiative because they are now suddenly old. Then the last fear is the fear of death. So he says that people are scared of death because of the unknown, and then also because from a Christianity standpoint, it's like if you don't do this, you're gonna go to hell. And there's like this I don't know, this like, oh, like you have to behave in order to do this, and then in order to get into heaven. And then people are like scared of death, as I said, either because they don't know what's going to happen or they're scared that they aren't going to go to heaven. And yeah, so he says like that is a fear that can shut off like imagination and like being successful if you're just carrying this fear around. So I don't think he actually gives a solution to this, but I made a video on my channel about how meditation honestly helped me get over death. I mean, get over the fear of death, because that was something that I was like paralyzed by. I was constantly worried that like something was going to hit the earth and we were all going to die, and I couldn't understand this concept of just being nothing. And then I decided to meditate, and yeah, go watch that video if you're more interested in that. Woo! Yeah, we're finished! Okay, so that was, well, maybe you haven't actually finished because you've only watched one. If you haven't watched all the other episodes, definitely go look. There's a playlist on my channel called Think and Grow Rich, so you can catch up. But I've finished the book now. Yay! Yeah, I thought it was quite a cool book, actually. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about Think and Grow Rich. Have you applied any of the exercises Napoleon Hill speaks about? And yeah, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Please subscribe down below. And hope you have a spectacular rest of the day or rest of the night, wherever you are. And I'll see you next week with a new video. Bye guys!